Good.
Julia, thanks for the information.
A little bit of reverb.
Is it us on
No, I'll just press it back here in the back.
Sorry.
Well, I'm glad I got that experience when he was.
Oh, it was, he's a great kid,
He is.
super kid.
We good, Shannon? Call our recess meeting from June 10th back to order. And we'll go ahead and have our invocation, and I believe it's Commissioner Walker's turn.
Thank you, sir, my privilege. Father, we come humbly before you today, asking for your blessing upon our gathering, asking for your guidance and direction, and help us to have peace with whatever decisions we arrive at, knowing that we're trying to serve you and serve the citizens that put their trust and confidence in us to elect us to the offices we hold. We pray, Lord, that you'll be with those who have special needs, whatever they might be, whether it's families, health, whatever their need may be. We just ask that you be with them. Let them feel your love and your presence and your guidance in a special way during their time of need. We always ask, Lord, that when time passes and we look back at times like this, we can see the touch of your hand on how things have worked, on how things have been done. We ask all these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Please continue standing for our pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Our budget work session continued from last night. We have the department heads, Eddie McGee and Brandon Gentry with us. And I'll start off with Mr. McGee, and thank both of y'all for being here with us.
So I'm going to begin by, I guess you want me to speak first, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. So in our proposed budget, the Arts Council is asking for consideration of funding, full funding for the Arts Place manager position. And I know that we originally made this proposal I think it was 2 budgets ago, and then withdrew the request. But the reason that we have requested it in the upcoming budget is that the responsibilities and the scope of this position have increased substantially since the opening of our venue. And the responsibilities for that market manager position. And the scope of that begins with the fact that we're open 364 days out of the year. That was not in the initial plan. But the demand for the venue to be open has caused that. So, which we're proud of. We're somewhat a victim of our own success, so to speak. But the 364 days has increased the burden of the market manager. In addition to responsibilities, I'm not sure what you all have discussed so far, but the responsibilities of that position include managing the retail market, where we have over 100 artists represented at this time, and that's opening and closing procedures, point of sale systems, inventory systems, actually customer sales, managing the schedule for more than 25 volunteers, because aside from the market manager, a lot of the burden goes on trained volunteers to help manage the venue. The market manager also responsible for reservations of the facility for performances, classes, our artist loft upstairs. The scope's increased. The tourism aspect of this position has increased. And according to the tourism technician, Tori May, we have the second most tourist requests behind Angel Rock State Park Visitor Center. So having this professional manager on staff to train volunteers and to answer all these tourism inquiries has helped. Again, it's increased, but it helps complement what Hanging Rock State Park is already doing with the Visitor Center. But another area that we did not foresee, a responsibility that the market manager must take care of is how much the space is being used by local Stokes County entities, whether that's governmental entities or other service organizations in Stokes County. And these are just a few. We've actually had department head meetings at this facility. Department of Social Services has used the facility, mental health, fire marshal program, DSS adoption ceremonies. Stokes County Schools has a host of meetings that are taking place there, including the League of Governments that you all have attended a meeting there. So the market manager is the one responsible, and these were all at no cost to the county. So this was all gratis, but at no cost to these organizations. But the market manager position is responsible for reserving the space, setting up the space for all of these meetings, whether it's tables and chairs, audio-visual equipment, projector, making sure it's staffed while these meetings are taking place in this venue, and then the tear down of this. And so, again, the scope of the position is what has increased. This person, in managing this facility, it does have an economic impact upon our county because all of the sales from the retail market and sales from admission for our events and classes, we have to pay sales tax on. So the state and the county both accrue sales tax from use of the space, but again, the space that is managed by the Arts Place manager. And what we're trying to do is just add, by requesting consideration for the budget, is add stability to the position by offering benefits. It attracts a professionally qualified person because it's again, the responsibilities that go with this position are, it's quite extensive. We also think it will reduce turnover, and we can also cross-train this position with the other positions which include the administrative assistant position that we already have. And we just think it will strengthen it, the staff that we already have. As far as what the county provides now, it's 2 salary and 2 benefits. Is that correct? It is 2 salary, 2 benefits, and so that's what's brought us here, or brought me here anyway. And so I appreciate consideration. Any questions or concerns that you have?
I'd like to bring forth to the board, if anybody has any questions, come, just go ahead and speak.
I'm going to use the open format that
Yes,
we've
sir.
used previously in a couple of our meetings. Eddie, I want to first off commend you for the job you're doing. I get a lot of positive feedback about your work with the Arts Council, about what the Arts Council does, and I look at things in our county that are working that I feel good about. I'm comfortable with the quality level that I see. You're in that category.
Thank you.
You've earned it. One question I have, just call it curiosity, we're looking at, if I may direct a question to Jake, how many positions in this budget were recommended? Something like 17, and then we add Eddie's 17 and a half, something like that, new positions. So we're having to sift through all these and give them consideration. And, I just cannot see us being able to handle all that many at one time, but based on what you're sharing with us, it sounds like some priority might need to be put toward your request. Now, the one thing that I'm curious about, hardly even worth mentioning, but just more curious than anything, there was a time when you asked the county to fund that position, I think 2 years ago. I was on board, I supported you. And still do support the concept that you and I think maybe Darlene had came up with at that particular time. It was to fund a position with county funds, and then the Arts Council would reimburse the county for all the money that was being spent. Well, this does seem like a shift, and now is it the same position?
It's the same position,
basically.
yes.
So now you're asking the county to kind of change course and instead of the Arts Council funding that position like things were then, you're asking for the county to fund half of the position. And I'm just, again, just kind of curious, what has changed? You mentioned the scope of the work, the
Sure.
responsibilities, and what would you say to kind of help me see
Well,
clearly?
again, I think the position has, the role of position, the title of the position has not changed, but the role of position, we now have more, what I would consider almost county government functions. When I have a art market manager who the Arts Council is paying to either manage a venue that's being used for a lot of county purposes, that's for one thing that has changed. We did not foresee that in the original plan, that was not in the business plan. We didn't realize, as I mentioned earlier, I think we've been a product of our own success. We didn't realize that we were gonna be scheduling almost weekly meetings from either Stokes County service organizations or other people utilizing the venue. Like I said, staff meetings, department meetings. So that's one thing that's increased. The tourism aspect of it has increased. As of right now, I know these are not all tourists, but in this fiscal year, we've had over 10,200 people enter that building since July 1.
Really?
Yes.
It's remarkable.
But again, because it's open 364 days out of the year, that was not something we didn't foresee. So it's the same position, but the responsibility have increased out of only the fault of being successful. Because, you know, a lot of people come in for tourism information that are not going to Hanging Rock, or that are not visiting the visitor center Hanging Rock. They're picking up a lot of information from us. So it is the same position, and that was the reason for the ask. We just felt it was, we just wanted the county to consider that the position is responding to a need. We think it's, part of it's a tourism visitor need, but part of it is a county need in use of the facility.
So
I hope that answers.
it comes close. Sometimes I just have to process. My
Understand?
processing capabilities may not be as intact as they have been in previous years, but it does help clear things up for me. And it sounds like things have changed considerably during the 2 years since you were here talking with us previously.
It's quite a busy venue. I'm spending entirely too much time there. And my wife tells me that pretty much about every week.
I get some comments from my wife about commissioner work sometimes. Some of them are not all that positive. But anyhow, also, think it's good for Andy, and Rick's very familiar with what you're doing. I was hoping Jamie would be here so he could kind of hear some of what's going on with the Arts Council, since they're still kind of getting situated in their position as commissioners. But maybe they can come over and visit with you sometime, and you can kind of catch them up on all that's going on with your work.
Would love the opportunity. I mean, it is when it's in your own backyard, a lot of times you somewhat take it for granted, but we're pretty much the talk of the state. To have we have great press, and I know we're gonna go ahead and pump ourselves up here. We had great press this past weekend. The Sunday Winston-Salem Journal did a nice article on it, and then today was actually mentioned in the opinion page in the journal again. So we're getting really good press.
Good.
And we like telling folks, we've got a $1.4 million arts venue in a town of about 125 with no stoplights. And we're serving the entire county, making an economic impact while serving our residents as well, so.
And the schools. I know at one time you used to have programs in the schools themselves.
Yes.
Are you still doing some of that?
Oh, we're still involved in all of the schools. We provide touring programs within all of the schools, and these are programs such as the Winston-Salem Symphony, Piedmont Opera, UNC School of the Arts, Columbia Marionette Theater. We also provide financial support to the schools themselves for visual arts classes, band, chorus, theater. So I don't, for as small a staff as we are, I don't know how we could provide any more services. So we got a great relationship with the schools. Something I didn't mention, I'm glad you brought that up. We actually have had programs, performances in the schools where the schools have actually visited. Lawsonville Elementary School has brought students into the arts place to attend performances. Sandy Ridge, Pine Hall, Nancy Reynolds. So they've actually attended performances. Instead of us going to their schools, which we still do, we're bringing them into what we can introduce as a professional arts venue, specifically created for the arts. And so, and the kids love it. That's pretty special that they're not having performance in the gym, but in a place with a stage.
Change the scenery.
And, yeah, so it's been a good experience, and we're still working on that relationship, but.
Well, one more thing, and then I know the others probably have something to say, but, you're an example to me, Eddie, of how I like for our county to be viewed in this area. I like for people to look at things happening in Stokes County and say, well, they've got it together. That's one thing they're doing well. And again, I think, your work with the Arts Council and all that's going on is a good example of what I like to see for our county.
I appreciate that, but it's a team. Listen, I work with Brandon, I work with the schools, we work with the sheriff's department. I think this county's blessed to have a great team, and I tell Jake and Shannon this a lot.
Oh, yeah.
We rely on each other as far as departments and services, so, we're just part of the process. We couldn't do it without them. I know I couldn't do it without this guy over here, so.
It's amazing how much can get done when people work together. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Eddie, I just like for you, if you don't mind,
Yes, sir.
reiterating, especially for Andy. Jamie's not here right now, but your positions, your 2 plus 1, your help and what their title is,
Okay.
along with you. So Andy, at least,
Sure.
he is our chairman and you this year.
Good, thank you. Thanks for asking that. So myself, I actually have 2 titles. I have a county title, which is Director of Arts and Cultural Services for the County of Stokes. And I have an Executive Director title, which is my nonprofit title for the Stokes County Arts Council. So my responsibilities, and I am fully paid, have full salary benefits from the county. It wasn't always that way. We won't go into that, Joey. So I lead the organization as far as strategic plans, programming, networking, a lot of grant writing and fundraising. So I'm your principal fundraiser for the organization. That includes local strategies, but also I've been so far as Nashville and Cincinnati to chase down money for Stokes County. But we receive a lot of out-of-county grants, and so I pretty much set the tone, I guess, for the organization. We have an administrative assistant position who also has an Arts Council title, operations manager, and that's Felicia Shaw. She is basically over all the accounting features, because we run several hundred thousands of dollars through our organization every year to provide the program. So she's responsible for the accounting, the books, a lot of the communication to the members, and then marketing. And then she works alongside with Tori and the tourism department to market a lot of what we do. And then the position that we asked her for is the market manager for our new facility, and just overseeing the retail, the performance, reservations of the space, and setting up all the different features of that new venue. So we like to think of a pretty well-oiled machine, and try to run ourselves as a Fortune 500 company, be as professional as we possibly can. And we never get there. That's the one thing we always say at board meetings, we're always a work in progress. And we'll continue to be. So, but we're part of a good team, as I said earlier. So, honored to be here.
Thank you,
Thank
Eddie.
you, Ron.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you going over that. Everybody here at the table, I'm sure, knows that, I didn't know if Andy knew all the nuances and the ins and outs of the
Right.
way everything is handled, so I appreciate you
Yes, sir.
describing it for him.
Yes, sometimes I don't know from day to day what I'm going to face. But it's worth it. You know, we also, I would mention, and I promise I won't go off message too much, but I'm also involved, I serve on the North Carolina Arts Council Board of Directors, and so I'm honored to be involved in the state level advocacy and state level funding. So I communicate quite a bit with Representative Hall and Senator Berger, and serve on several grant panels. I chair the Veterans in Healing Arts, Military Healing Arts Grant Program of the North Carolina Arts Council, so I'm honored to do that. And then I'm part of the Grassroots Arts Program. We grant out over $5 million in grants every year through all 100 counties. But that's just another part of it. And I wouldn't be in that position had it not been the success of Stokes Arts. They would have never, Governor McCrory appointed me to that position. So that would have never happened had he not seen just our quality of work. So, wear a lot of hats.
Let me go now.
Yes.
I thought this had been a government position from day one. But it didn't turn out to be, but, I think, it definitely should be now. And I would fund it 100%, fully funded. For several reasons. One, I think that they got 3 folks over there that are working these crazy hours every day of the year except Christmas, right? Is that the day you're on?
That's,
One day you're on.
it wouldn't surprise me if somebody's there on Christmas, but yeah, the goal is 364 days.
So, I think it needs to be a stable position, which would be increased by making it a government position. And of course, to attract good people, when you have benefits, that's a lot of times that's what people get a job for, it's just for the benefits. So, to me, that's a real plus. I think from the transition from us paying, from you paying for it originally as proposed to us paying for it, I think that's been earned through demonstrated performance with what you guys have done over there. They're like an economic development engine for the county. I mean, they do the Stokes Stomp, they do all this stuff in the schools, they contract with people, they bring in vendors, they bring in all sorts of things that are directly related to economic development and the tourism piece of that especially. So, so to me, it's kind of a no-brainer to do that. I like the fact that, and I think you mentioned you could cross-train another government person with the person you got there, and increase your flexibility of being able to orchestrate all this stuff you guys are doing all the time. I had a note to add other duties as assigned to your job description, but I think you've got it in there. You say perform related duties as required or directed by the executive director. That's the same as other duties as assigned, okay.
That's correct.
And that goes to the flexibility of having a government position versus a contract position where you basically just you perform whatever the scope of the contract is, and that's what you're required to do. Ton of work goes in. Everybody's kind of focused now on the fact that Eddie raised all this money to fix up the facility. But you also alluded to this, there's a tremendous amount of recurring funding being brought in for the programs, which is really, it's like it's not the church, it's not the building, it's the things that go on inside of it. And so you got all these programs going on with the schools, you got this new junior music, mountain music,
Junior Mountain Music Program.
Junior Mountain Music Program that has already demonstrated great success with a concert. Sold out concert last week, right, or week before.
Yeah, that was capacity plus.
So, I mean, this thing, I mean, if it walks like a duck, looks like a duck, probably is a duck, and I mean, that's what this position looks to me like. It ought to be a government position, and if you think of it from a merit standpoint, like I said, I think they've earned the thing of being county funded for the position. I personally think, I've been involved with a lot of stuff over there, taking courses over there, and attended events over there, and drank coffee over there, a lot of nice things. I don't think we've seen anything like what this place is going to be a year or two from now. There's a signature event coming in October with Tony Brown that, it might change the whole face of this operation, you know, to something. I might be in here asking for 3 more people for long, so, but, bottom line, you know, I'm definitely gonna support, this being a government position for very obvious reasons. And I have one other comment too. While Eddie's here, how many hours you work a week, you think? Just average?
You don't wanna go there.
Okay,
You're not gonna even.
okay. Well, don't answer me then, but one of the things we're gonna discuss are these comparisons at some point in our budget process is the comparison of the, classification structure for our department heads. I took the list that Shannon sent us and kind of reversed it and put the high grades at the front and the low grades at the back. And so I was looking here, you know, I started down the first page, has all the high grades on it. And I was looking for Eddie and I didn't find him anywhere. So then I flipped over and he's down on the second page, kind of at the bottom at a 74 versus the high 80s for a lot of very kind of similar type positions and work that's going on. So that's why I asked you how many hours you work, but I know you're putting in a tremendous amount of effort over there, and a tremendous amount of, you know, knowledge is required, education is required, experience is required, certainly grant funding and that whole complicated process of obtaining and then administering grants once you get them. So when we get to that discussion, you know, that's something else we're gonna have to do, I think. But, I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rick. Well, Eddie, I gotta say, appreciate you coming out today. And back during the campaign, one of my biggest things was economic development and taking advantage of the tourism that we have coming here. And of course, you're one of the guys that's pretty much on top of the board of knowing how to do that. As far as the responsibilities on this sheet, how many of those do you currently do yourself? All?
Well, we all, I mean, the team has to do it.
Right.
So we're all trained, and, I mean, we have to, you know, with customer services, that's what we do.
Right.
We're in the business of customer service or public service, so.
And one thing that I know is when you go to grow your business, you get all these responsibilities, and then when you get stuck at that one point, if you don't have somebody start coming taking over, you can't keep growing that because you can't reach out to any more stuff. So I see, Trevor, I know you're struggling on that part, and it's like I said, you do have to have more people to continue to grow. You can't keep doing what you're doing, eventually the ladder's gonna fall. And one thing for sure that I've seen over the years, passing up and down this road in Danbury, that place has really grown, and, you know, I've been really wowed by it. I mean, I just can't believe how big it has grown to, and you and your team's all credit for that, and we sure do appreciate it. So I can tell you I'm in full support of this because it's something that's actually working. And you said second most called about in the county now, besides the park?
Obviously, as far as the tourism information, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, but it's what we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
You know, but, you know, we want to provide, Stokes County doesn't deserve just average service, it deserves exceptional service.
Right.
And I think that's what we try to provide, and as the other county departments do as well.
Right.
I mean, we all strive for exceptional service, and I think this county gets it, so, thank you. Thank
Well,
you
from what I've seen coming in right here, I would see a yes on this all the way around. So it's been kind of a no-brainer on it, so. I do appreciate you coming in and
Yes,
giving
sir.
us all this information on to kind of clarify things on it.
Well, if you need more information, I'm there. If I'm not there, I'm either at the hospital or I'm in Raleigh or Charlotte or somewhere trying to swindle, I shouldn't say that, trying to get money from foundations from somewhere. I apologize for that slip of the tongue there.
By the way, we're on TV now.
I just realized that.
That just went all.
Thank you. Thank you. Ronnie, that's what I needed to hear.
We'll sort of let it slide on by, but,
Just-
so in other words, if I wanted a print of Hanging Rock, I'd just go over and say, Eddie, and you could find me a historical print of that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right.
Well, I can tell you, there's been several things y'all had over. Me and my wife was planning to go see, and then other things just kind of fell through. We weren't able to make it, so. But a few times I've been over there, me and Rick's been over a couple times, and sat down and ate some lunch, and really enjoyed what I've seen. So I said, what y'all done with it, just, I mean, I'm just amazed.
Yeah, it's a very inspiring space. I mean, I would, listen, this sounds selfish, but if I did it for anybody, I did it for me, because I wanna work in a place that inspires me to be there. And it seems to have worked all the way around, so. And I love seeing these two right here come in and get ice cream and coffee and stuff too, so we're all enjoying it.
I hadn't taken advantage of the ice cream yet, but now that you said it, I'll be sure to find my way down there.
Good stuff down there.
It is. It is.
Hey, I just thought of something that
Yes,
kind of a wrap-up type question, but amend this as needed, if you feel like you need to. But I feel like you've had very strong support from the county toward your work. There are times when there were things that needed to be addressed as far as the building itself, and I think the county has been there for you whenever you needed for them to be there. How do you see that? Is there anything would you describe it similarly or
No,
differently?
I would agree. I would agree. And again, it's working with the other departments as well, that relationship. Stokes County, we're actually the model now for a lot of other counties that are looking at the relationship between the county of Stokes and the Arts Council and how services are provided. Orange County, Hillsborough, Chapel Hill,
Big counties.
before,
counties.
they have a arts commission and then a nonprofit wing of that arts commission, but they're fully funded from their county. They looked at this relationship here before they created that. Cabarrus Arts is getting a lot more, and again, a bigger county. If you're looking at Concord and Kannapolis, similar relationship. The town of Cornelius, I wanna say it's maybe Davidson County. They've got an arts commission that they've developed, and they looked at this very closely, the relationship between, the county of Stokes and the Stokes County Arts Council. So other people are noticing, and if other people are noticing and somewhat changing their game to fit ours or to fit our model, I would think you'd be doing something right. So I agree with you. Yeah, the support's wonderful.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you all.
You ain't giving away all the secrets, are you?
Oh, no, I don't give away. No. We got plenty of secrets left.
Good luck with your health challenge.
Sir?
Good luck with your health challenge.
Yeah, it's a whole other, I wish I could resolve that in just a meeting, but that's not gonna happen. But I'll be in touch. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Ed. Then we'll go ahead and bring up, Mr. Gentry.
Thank y'all for having me again. Second time to sit down with you guys and try to watch y'all on the live feed now and maybe answer some of your questions. The sixth ambulance, of course, is needed now. Due to the call volume, since 2000, the last 14 years, we've increased double from 6,000 to 11,192, I believe. But we gotta have the ambulance station, of course, to house the 2 trucks and put them in Wanaco. The main thing, I know we talk about 2472, I know that can't be funded right now. But the 2448 paid on true time and a half really needs to go along with this to help staff this. If we don't do that, I don't see us, it's gonna be hard to get to staff in. I don't know if y'all discussed that part on the true time and a half. Cause they're working 218.25 hours and then 242 hours 1 month. So, that's gonna be a key factor in all this. And I know buying the truck, we ordered July 1, it won't be here till November, December. The ambulance station will probably take 8 to 12 months to build. So, I mean, it won't be we can't get it up and running immediately, but we can start hiring the staff. And our current 2 openings we have now, we still have them as well.
Robin, will you remind me again of the 6th ambulance that we're talking about, in the Wanaco area? Did you say you needed 6, was it
least six employees to staff that.
And what's your division, did you say, as far as the EMTs and paramedics?
We're advanced life support service. So our goal is to be a paramedic on every ambulance. We don't really hire EMTs full-time unless they're in paramedic school and getting close to graduating. We do hire some EMTs and EMT intermediates for the advanced EMT. They can start IV, stuff like that, but not quite like a paramedic. Whenever they graduate paramedic school, then they usually just, they become an asset to the county. And we got to train them, that's a big plus. But our goal is to be paramedic on every ambulance. Due to our transport times, I mean, that's the key. You got someone sick, you're with them 45 minutes. We're not in Winston, we can't be for Cypher Baptist in 10 minutes. So the 6 paramedics is gonna go along with this truck, and that's, adding 6 more people. But the 24-48 true time and a half really needs to be considered with this to help staff it.
Is everybody required to become a paramedic at some point when you hire them? You don't let them just sit, right?
Well,
Therefore,
they can stay at the advanced EMT level. That's
Okay.
something that needs to be,
How do you mean that's because they don't wanna go any further, or you're,
right.
okay.
And that's been Stokes County's,
Well, why would they not wanna go to the paramedic level if they're gonna do that for a
their
living?
responsibility is a lot less,
Okay.
a lot less. They're not the lead person on the truck. The paramedics ultimately responsible for everything.
Brandon, there was some, discussion at this past evening's meeting. Chairman Nicholson mentioned something, there was some discussion about it. I'd be interested in your thoughts. I thought it had a good sound to it when he mentioned it. That is, if we can't go all the way with getting the 6th unit and a place for it and staff, maybe we could build the facility out of this year's budget, bring the 6th unit into service in next year's budget, which at least we'd be working toward the goal. What thoughts do you have regarding that possibility?
That's a good thought, and it'll work, but you gotta look at how many times the citizens of Stokes County without an ambulance.
I got the numbers.
224 times, that's just about one a day. There wasn't an ambulance here to provide services. We had to call in another service if we needed it.
Right, but you usually have access to those other services, it seems. Rockingham, Forsyth, Surrey, they provide support at a pretty good level, it seems.
Yeah, it's the same level,
Mhm.
but if they're busy, they can't send someone, and, they do call on us sometimes.
Sure,
We've
reciprocal.
seen to help them.
Right.
It works both ways.
So when we get down to crunching the final numbers for this budget and things appear particularly tighter than we'd want them to be for this budget, at least we would be making a good faith effort in the right direction to go ahead in this budget and create a facility. Because I understand you're having problems with the current Walnut Cove station due to the size of the new ambulances.
Yeah, the newest ambulances won't fit where we switched over to the F-Series 4-wheel drives.
Right.
There's just no way to remodel that, rebuild, it wouldn't be feasible, in my opinion,
Right.
and several other people I spoke to. The building's fairly old, and I don't really think we have enough room there on that corner lot to do anything.
Okay. You mentioned the true overtime. That's always been kind of a mystery to me, how you pay a certain level of overtime. And I think that was because a certain state statute allows our EMS folks to be compensated that way. And
Right.
we're not the only county who's doing it that way. I noticed, I don't know where my
Surrey.
sheet is. Surrey is
Surrey does it.
doing that also.
Mhm.
Do you know, I know you talked to John and other directors.
Right.
Do you know if they're planning on sticking with their current concept, or if they're looking at going full?
I heard they put in their budget this year to go true time and a half at Surrey.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's been approved or where they stand on that. That's what I was told.
Right, so if that happens, if it were to happen, then we conceivably could be the only county in the area that is not paying true overtime.
Right. Yeah.
That wouldn't help your recruiting, would it?
No. And, I mean.
I wouldn't have to current
24/7
staff, then you'd probably lose some of them too, wouldn't you?
Correct. So,
Short right now, right?
yeah, just had an applicant apply this week. He's graduating paramedic school in June, works part-time with us, so.
So would that put you up to full staff or close?
Close. No, I mean, I just lost one this past week, he went to air care, you know, another good employee, but,
Well, you can't fault them for bettering themselves,
Right.
and that probably is a step in the right direction career-wise for them.
right,
Generally, this may have a little to do with the budget, but generally, it seems like our county is a good place for folks to work. It's stable, good leadership, not some of the concerns they might have in a county like Forsyth, or possibly even some of the others, I don't know.
right.
But I think we're generally considered a good place to work. People like to be here, like to work here. So that's a plus, that's in our favor. And I've been on this board a long time. I think this is my 4th term, and never thought I'd be here this long, but you never know. And ever since I've been here, staffing, EMS staffing has been an issue. I particularly remember with Monty Stevens, and then Greg, and now you've inherited it, so it's something that's been there for a pretty good while, sometimes better than other times. Right now, with just a spot or two open, you're doing better than we've been doing it some other times. But we want to keep things moving in the right direction. Far as, sort of hate to even ask you to make this comparison, but 6th ambulance or true overtime,
Which one?
which one would you give the nod to?
I'd say the true overtime. Or we're
Okay.
gonna shut down the 5th truck. Cause I mean, more people will be leaving. We gotta do something to retain these people.
Sure.
24/72 is killing us. Davie County is taking people, Surrey County's taking them. There's nothing we can do about that.
Well, Yadkin and,
They're working 167 hours a month. We're working 218, 242. They're making the same money. I
right,
mean, it's,
but they can only take so many
right.
to be fully staffed for their
Well, they're full right now.
operation.
Present
And you'd
time.
kind of expect that,
Right,
more favorable condition. But
Yeah.
you got Yadkin, Stokes, and Rockingham kind of facing the same challenge there, and since we're on a 24/48 schedule.
right. Well, I think Rockingham's all 12 hour now,
Oh, really?
due to their call volume.
Okay,
Yeah, they've had to go to 12 hours.
right.
They're not 24 no more.
Our county's not fully staffed, are
No, no. When I started there in 98, they've never been full that I know of.
And it's interesting because Forsyth County, I'm sure, has a more lucrative pay scale than Stokes and Yadkin and some counties, similar counties to ours. But they lose, last I heard, they were losing employees, and I don't know, I'm not referring particularly to EMS, but they lose employees to Guilford. So you got Forsyth,
Right.
it's here,
And
and
they
then
do, I mean.
Guilford is
they
up
lose
here,
EMS
so.
employees due to call volume and,
Mhm.
you know, it's statewide. It's not just Stokes County.
They're just not, it doesn't seem like enough paramedics are being trained
Correct.
to
they're
meet
not.
the demand.
No, they're not. That's been talked about at all the community colleges. There's more openings, there is people graduating each year at paramedic school.
Right. So between the two, you'd give your nod to true overtime.
True time and a half will be
True time and a
what we
half,
have now.
That's what I'm referring to.
But the 6th truck to provide the services we're providing today, we need to be going with that as well. But to keep who's working here now, we need the true time and a half. We gotta have the true time and a half or a schedule change to retain what we have. But now the 6 trucks, well, I mean, you seen the graph, Rick's, I believe I give that to all of you, it's just trending up, I don't see it changing. Our population's older, and that's increasing call volume.
I've heard that the fastest growing segment of our population is, older
Yeah.
folks,
That's
like
what
me
we're-
and one other commissioner, I won't say which one.
And that's what I'm doing, I'm trying to provide better service for that generation, because one day you may need it, one day you may not.
I needed it, glad you were there.
That's my main concern, is try to retain what we have and try to provide better services. Get animals to them quicker. We can't really move no animals around. We move one, the Lawsonville truck ain't as busy, but I can't move it out of Lawsonville to help take, the call load off on the cove, because it takes so long to get to Francis Cove, Sandy Ridge. I mean, we gotta leave these things placed kind of where they are.
Let me ask you this, if I may, you just alluded to it, certain stations have less call volume compared to certain other stations.
Correct.
Now, I think the two over there on Chestnut Grove are probably your highest.
Them and Walnut Cove.
And Walnut
But they got
Cove.
a shorter transport time. When the truck in Lawsonville runs a call,
It's,
No,
it's a long haul, no
right.
doubt. And even here is
And we
a
still
good
have to
way.
move them all around. When trucks leave, we move a truck to that area.
Right.
They're constantly moving.
I'm thinking more in terms of staff, Brandon. I don't know, do you have higher turnover possibly at the Chestnut Grove station and Walnut Cove station, since these folks are answering a lot more calls, or is it pretty consistent throughout our?
It's pretty consistent, because here lately, a lot of people's working here, then they have to go over here and work due to, we need a solo paramedic that's cleared by our medical director. They do a lot of moving around, because there has to be one of them on every truck.
Right.
So, I mean, a lot of them's they're working all the stations.
So it's not burnout
I
for
wouldn't
those
say
who are.
burnout. Most
But
of
we
us-
don't rotate staff among our stations, do we?
No.
So you have some that answer a lot less calls than some of the others.
Yeah, well, they're all catching up with one another now. I mean,
And I don't understand that, because our county population has actually declined some, I think, in the past couple of years.
it has, but the population's getting a lot older.
Right.
Yes. And then the nursing homes,
Right.
they're popping up everywhere. And
I won't give any other commissioner a chance.
I'd like to comment.
Sure.
I was just doing the math, I'm kind of find it interesting, one of the things I campaigned on was doing standard business practices. And if you look in, Unit 5 was added in 2004, we had about 6,000 calls, now we got about 1,211 calls per unit back then, now we've got 2238 calls per unit. So how does that make any sense whatsoever from a business perspective? I mean, if your company, if you had a certain set of people and a certain number of all those nice machines you've got, and all of a sudden your business doubled, would you go that many years from 4 to 18 without adding another piece of equipment and some people to take care of it? I mean,
I understand, but this is our first year on the board, and if we've been maybe a couple terms behind, or, 8 years.
no, I'm not challenging, I'm just using it as a comparison.
Right.
I don't think you would. I think you guys would have a whole lot more trucks and a whole lot more people if you had double the business. I mean, you and any other business, not just you.
Which we've been there before, we just worked double the hours.
You can work
Did
extra
what you
hours
had
and
to
stuff.
do.
Right, doing what we had to do to make it through, yeah.
Yeah, you can do that for a while, but
Right.
we're talking here from 2004 to 2018 on this chart, so. I realize we gotta make hard budget decisions here and everything, but if we do the station, then do the truck next year, we're really talking about 2 more years before we have this going on. So, given this kind of change in call volume and stuff, it makes no sense to me, but I know there's a bunch of risk in there somewhere that people are taking that's kind of hidden, a lot of it probably, and you don't even know where it's at, but there's bound to be a lot of risk with what taking so long to adjust to these changes and so forth.
As I said, the perfect world, everybody would have their fun, but
Oh, yeah.
unfortunately, it's gonna work like it. And it's like I said, the thing I was kind of looking at is you're having more trouble staying fully staffed and making sure you keep that staff. But you know, if it was me buying another truck or keeping my staff, if I ain't got staff to run it, it ain't no sense in me having that truck. It's gonna
Right.
sit there and rot. So
That's what I wanted to make clear tonight, or
Right.
today was, you know, we gotta retain what we got, we need, you know, pay the true time and a half. But I don't like other counties coming here to run calls. I would
Right.
want my parents, my family, my friends, any of you have to wait in Lawsonville
Right.
for Scott County to come get you. You know, that's gonna be 30, 40 minutes, maybe fine.
Right.
Like I said, there's embedded risk all over the
Right.
place here.
And we, you know, we try, most of the time the supervisors there, they're gonna go if that ambulance is coming a long way, if they're not tied up.
Mhm.
I mean, they're getting busier every day also. So I'm just, that's what we need. I know y'all gotta make a lot of tough decisions and
Just for the sake of, you know, we have some folks watching on our live stream, and I don't want our citizens overly concerned about whether an ambulance is going to come. If they have a need, there'll be an ambulance
there'll be an
for
ambulance
them.
there.
And part of the way it sounds like you're doing it, or one way you're addressing this, Brandon, is if there is a transport from Lawsonville, you'll move another available unit, our unit, up to that area, if I understood you
One that
correctly.
comes up, if the hospital truck's gone,
Mhm.
the one in Lawsonville's gone, if both of them are available in King, they come to Moore Springs or 66.
So they would be available
They
for a
move-
call in
The
Lawsonville.
truck in
and down
Walnut
there.
Cove's gone, if everything on this side of the county's gone, and both trucks are in Pinnacle, or just one, they come to Danbury,
Right.
to the center of the county.
So you've got it worked out using available resources,
And I've seen that.
as much as we can.
Yeah.
My ambulance sitting there at, Moore Springs
Yeah.
at 66.
Unfortunate fact is ALS is one of the most expensive things local government does. If you're gonna provide advanced life support,
Very.
it's gonna cost you. And there just ain't any way around that. It's the nature of the business.
Particularly, Commissioner Morris, for a county like ours, where we don't have hospitals nearby, not that can address some of the health issues that these people are taking to Winston for anyway.
Right.
And so we have to keep a good EMS service available for our folks. It's just being responsible to do it.
I think that's what they expect of us. I mean, there are counties and other places that don't even have paid service.
Yeah, I don't wanna,
They pay a price for it too. I know they're
Well,
bound to.
I remember, I've been around a while, I'm the oldest person on our board, I believe. I think I am. But anyway, I remember when the funeral homes did it in Forsyth. They didn't have an ambulance service, Butler's and other funeral homes did it.
Really?
They really did.
If I could schedule the 911 calls, I could do this with 3 trucks,
Yeah,
but I mean, I just can't. 5 people may call now, and that's, you know, we're out of 5 ambulances just like that.
sure.
I mean, it's one that you don't know on the 911 side.
Let me kind of, for my part in working with the budget, see, kind of bounce this off of you, and I think I understand, I think I'm gonna know what your answer will be. But if we could at least do the station, which we really need to house a 6th ambulance, 6 units, take us out of that out of the current situation we have in Walnut Cove. And if we went to true overtime, we would have made some progress in this budget addressing some of the issues that concern you most.
Yes,
Is that correct?
yes.
Okay.
One thought I had, if we do that, are we sure we can afford an 6 ambulance in the next year's budget? It'll be a salary study then, that would deal with.
We'll have the same, you've already realized this, being a county manager and a commissioner, it never ends. There's never enough funds
Paying on
to
stuff in
address
the
all the
future When
needs.
you don't know what the future is, it's a little
Comes-
bit risky sometimes.
It's always priorities. Well, the thing I'm looking at too, Commissioner Morris, is you're very analytical, very insightful. You do your job. You process numbers pretty well. But what I'm looking at is both of the things we would be doing with a new station and the true overtime are things that are needed whether we get to 6th unit or not.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we'll get to 6th unit at some point in time, sooner instead of later, but both of those would be a step in the right direction, right, Brandon?
Correct.
Does anybody else have anything?
I do.
Okay,
Well,
good.
shouldn't bring us up, probably, but, because we're looking at more urgent needs, and I don't know where you are with this, but we have kind of put the, basic life support, the county acquiring those services on hold behind these rather more important issues.
Correct.
What have we missed, if anything, by doing that?
By doing that,
Yes, sir.
the only thing we've missed is, I mean, we could have made some revenue. We
Right.
don't know how much.
But it's gonna take a while to recover our investment also,
Right.
because there's
I mean,
upfront
you gotta spend-
investment.
You gotta spend money to make money,
True.
so, but there is money to be made at that. If we were proficient and no other counties were running emergency calls in our county, 911 calls, then we need to jump on it and do it. But I wanna take care of the emergency calls first,
Right.
the way they need to be handled. Before we venture into that, Lifestar's doing it, it's working great. No complaints with that.
Good. Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
Appreciate you being here.
Yes, thank you guys for having me, I appreciate it.
Just one last thing, I just wanna make sure. We talked about the time frame. You just did this, like build the building or et cetera, but let's say we go ahead and do the complete project.
Mhm.
Build the building. And okay, the employees. And 600.
Right.
Looking at Jake and you, Brandon, what, with getting everything together, let's say we approve everything and
Okay.
get it together. What are we looking at? It's your best guess, because you know, when we started with Sheriff Marshall and the jail expansion, you know, we were told it would probably take this amount of time and it took a little bit longer than we thought, so what's y'all's best guess on beginning
Whenever we did,
to it being ready to roll?
when we did Pinnacle, that's when the times were very hard for everybody, all the builders. I don't believe there was a lot of building going on, so they really jumped on that, bid it. Now everybody's got work, you know, it may be whoever win, you know, it'd have to be a bid, of course. I'm gonna say 8 months to a year, depending on weather.
Oh, yeah.
8 months to a year.
Right. And the ambulance, you ordered July 1, they're talking November before it would be ready. So, you know,
With the weather being halfway decent, should be completed within a year.
Oh, I would say
yes,
Yeah.
should, yeah.
It's a prefabricated structure,
Yeah.
metal type, you know, and it looks good. The
Yeah.
one up there in Chesterfield looks good.
It's served us well.
Just one other quick question, on the building we're using now, we own it, right?
Yes, I'm on the code.
What would we do with that if we build a new building, sell it? Is that y'all all about that?
I would.
Could if you use a good bingo night, couldn't it?
Would it be worth a lot or not much?
Bingo,
Bingo,
I
yeah.
might be interested.
Yeah.
Town won't cover it.
There you go.
Town won't cover it. They may move on that. They're kind of looking for some new space.
Who is that?
Town won't cover it.
And we use that to offset some of the costs.
Sure.
Yeah, good. I wouldn't have a need for it. So,
That's all I have.
Commissioner Monroe. Anybody else have anything?
Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank
Judge,
you all for
thank
your
you for coming
time.
out. Yes, sir, thank you.
If you ever see that deer that's wearing my glasses, let me know.
Thank y'all.
See you, Brandon.
All right, with that, y'all wanna take just a quick break?
Sure.
I'm fine, yeah, maybe 5 minutes.
Okay. Recess about 5 minutes. Return a couple phone calls, I'll be right back.
Oh, gosh, some old bu-
1 second.
Call the meeting back to order.
I have a question before we get started.
Sure.
Whenever Commissioner Yance gets here, can we have a discussion on how we're gonna get this finished?
Yeah, I think we do.
Please.
Because, we're running out of time.
Well, Chairman Nicholson may be gone Thursday.
I'll be here Thursday.
Okay, good. And then Commissioner Yance is gone next week, then you're gone the following week.
I'm here Monday of that following week.
But gone the rest of it.
The rest of the week I'll be gone, Monday through
Right.
Friday. Then I'll be back on Saturday and Sunday, which is still in the month of June.
So you're here on the 24th on the regular board meeting, is that what you mean? You're here on the Monday of the 24th?
We have a board meeting that night.
We do.
Yeah, I'll be here for all that day. I'm just leaving the next morning.
Okay.
So the 24th is still open for everybody?
Yeah, it is, it just, if you're gonna, cause you talk about that a little bit, cause you need to do the budget ordinance and all that stuff, so either can be approved at that meeting, if not, we have to have another meeting to approve that.
Would it make your life a whole lot easier if we got this thing finished up Thursday, correct?
Yeah, and that way I got all next week to get it finalized and everything, and printed up and the ordinance done, and then present it, give y'all approve the ordinance at the regular meeting.
Okay. All right.
But we're really, Jamie needs to be here for it. We'll
Yeah.
have a discussion on this. Just look at his schedule.
I'll go ahead and open it up. Anybody wants to talk?
Okay, have put some more thought into our 4-cent fund. You and I were kind of having some discussion about that earlier in the process, and, I was thinking back, when this fund was created, and I know there was some projects specified, but I was trying to think back what my position was initially on it, to be sure that I haven't told our citizens one thing and end up doing something else. I know at times there's a possibility I'm gonna slip up and say do this, and for some reason or reasons end up having to change my mind. But I wanna keep that to a minimum as much as possible, and if I make a commitment, stick with it. So the reason I'm mentioning that is where I was initially was that fund was to be used for school projects. Now, if we expand it beyond just certain specified projects, I don't have a large concern about that, because we're basically sticking true to the initial concept. We said we're gonna use this fund for projects as needed. And so, I know we've dipped into it one time for Chestnut Grove. I see here on some information I have, some of those funds were actually paid back to the 4-cent fund, over 400,000.
I'll put it on your location there.
Yes, right in front of you, it's right beside your name there, I
Second
believe.
It's over here.
Yeah.
Second sheet.
Okay.
So I'm not as rigid or dug in on that as maybe it sounded like at one time I was.
Okay.
Now that I've had a chance to actually think about it some more and see what did we really say to the public when this was created. Yeah, thank you. Can I ask a question, please, to the board, to anyone in staff, anybody who, what is the purpose of our meeting with the school board? I know the sheriff is supposed to be here to discuss SROs, but is it open to?
SROs was our original thing, and then it sort of got expanded, the word we said. We added to that, but originally SROs with the sheriff was the original.
I advertised it as a joint meeting with the Board of Education, just like our last one was, but with the, the indication in there that the public is invited to attend the open session portion. There will be a closed session portion, and even County Attorney Browder will be here for that, and I've got the justifications for closed session from him for that closed session, just to deal with school safety issue. After that, there'll be an open portion afterwards for time for any kind of discussion that the boards may want to have together. So it was posted that way, so that way there's room for whichever you might decide to do after.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Just kind of get everybody's thought last, I had a discussion with Commissioner Morris and short discussion with Commissioner Yance last night on some of the capital projects, and one of them was the green box sites. Maybe either holding off on the Pinnacle Walnut Cove, or maybe just doing one, like the Walnut Cove, because we got the fuel depot there, and it's bad shape, is that correct?
Yeah.
So it seems to already be a money issue there, even if we didn't get that fixed. How's the board feel about that?
I think it's certainly worth considering, and between the two, it sounds like there's a more critical need at Walnut Cove
Yeah.
for various reasons. One is, it's a traffic hazard, and I think you can attest to that, Commissioner, in all firsthand experience. You heard our director of ours, Eddie McGee, talk about how his operation, and I picked this up from the public as well, is viewed as a quality part of the county's overall operation. I don't think we can look at our green box sites, all of them, particularly Pinnacle and Walnut Cove, and say these sites are where we would prefer for them to be. There's need for improvement. It all comes back to me, and you mentioned doing maybe one in this budget, another later. It all comes back to how far we can stretch our funds. We set some lines, 25%, no less than 25% in our fund balance. And we have to work all we're trying to do around what we have to work with for this budget. If funds were if we had unlimited funds, we'd be adding a 6th ambulance unit, we'd be doing the
2472?
No, I still couldn't go with that. I'm sorry, I just can't get a grasp for that concept. That's just beyond me.
Yeah, I know we're gonna have trouble keeping employees here.
Well, there are other options. I don't even want to talk about them or even think about them right now, really. But we just have to look at, okay, we're doing a budget, like Commissioner Morris has alluded to. What's it gonna take to get this budget done? What are we gonna leave in, and what are we gonna take out to make it work? And that you got 5 people interesting. I have my list of priorities. I have 1 or 2 that are deal breakers. If it goes south, y'all guys, it's your budget, not mine. And you probably have them too. But what is it gonna take? When can we get together and come up with a budget?
Today.
Sure, just put one little sentence in, as changes as recommended by Commissioner Walker, you got a budget.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember way back in January when several people that thought that we had too many meetings last year. If anybody else remembers that statement. And it looks like to me, we're gonna be squeezing the deadline this year more than we ever have. I've got a list of items also that I made today that, I think you gotta be creative here. You gotta be open-minded, and you gotta be flexible that, to let some things go that you might have originally thought you wanted, but I heard on the news coming up here today that Wake County just finished theirs, last night, and they did not increase their property tax. Finished it up, and, I think the budget, financing might have been around 6 or 7%, but there was no property tax increase. That's Wake County, that's
It's
why.
very, very rapidly growing area.
Second largest county behind Mecklenburg. So it's gotta be done, and we gotta get it done quickly.
And there has, I think you had made a very good point, Commissioner Mendenhall. There needs to be give and take on the part of the commissioners, discussion, trying to work something out that nobody's gonna get totally their way. If anybody goes into the process expecting that, they're just complicating it for the rest of us. So there has to be some give and take, no matter whose views, I know to each of us, our view is important, but we got to consider the other commissioners too to make this happen.
You sound like my wife talking about our marriage.
It works in a marriage, same process.
I'll make a couple comments, Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yes, sir.
Thing about the too many meetings reminds me that I saw on social media this weekend that somebody was wondering if we're gonna address the commissioner pay issue.
I see that.
And, I've made my position clear on what that should be. And I'm just waiting to see if you guys wanna leave it the same or change it, and I'm good either way.
I think also the person,
My position is what it is,
Yeah.
and it hasn't changed, so.
all that I'm gonna say when I right there is, I believe the person that put that on there was also insinuating that we would make special meetings just to get paid. And so far, what I've seen of that, none of us has done that.
Of course we haven't, but the
Right.
process lends itself to that. That's what the issue is. It's not, I never accused anybody of doing that, but it certainly could look that way when you have two meetings in an afternoon. Get paid for both of them.
And then vice versa, if we go on a flat rate, and like what I've come into and what Commissioner Yachts is coming to, we had things come up when able to make the meeting, you still get paid for it, and there's gonna be a complaint on that also.
I wouldn't agree to that either.
Yeah.
I would agree to a flat rate with a deduction for missed meeting, would be my recommendation.
You remember Commissioner Carroll,
I'm up to you, it's up to you guys if you wanna take any action on that or not.
I'll just come out. I appreciate that comment, because, mine is, I like it the way it is. Get paid if you're here. If you're not here, you don't get paid. You know what, the fee, I mean, we know what we're gonna do.
merit-based, right? The more you do, the more you get
know,
paid.
Like, if you're not here right now, you're not gonna get paid for this budget meeting. If you are here, you get paid for it.
Now, we'll see. It's pretty low pay for what we do. I mean,
Yeah.
Nobody can honestly say they're doing this for the money, because it's definitely not there, but.
My intention was never to lower
Yeah.
the commissioner's pay. It was
Right, and you
just
said that before.
Have a process that didn't have a perceived conflict of interest.
Right.
But, I agree, I mean, I'm spending a lot of time out at meetings, regular meetings, plus, outside the county a lot, every week going somewhere, so I'm not trying to lower the commissioner's pay, I was just trying to put it on a different process.
Can I kind of,
Maybe it needs to be more, I don't know.
well, it's been the same basic pay for, the whole 14 years I've been on this board, right, Julia? It's gone up with longevity, COLAs, whatever, but the same basic pay for probably the last 20 years. That's a very interesting situation, to say the least. And Ron Carroll, back when he was commissioner, we were being paid for mileage and if you had, I think we got paid if we had to buy supplies, but I know it was mileage. And he came up with an idea, a concept, okay, we don't need to be paying ourselves for mileage. Let's just figure a reasonable amount kind of an average among commissioners, how much mileage we're being paid, add that to the meeting amount and cover it all at one time. And there was some interest in doing that, but it never happened. And that's the last.
Way of doing business, having a flat travel allowance, that's
Yeah.
not unusual.
Yeah, that was his concept exactly, but it didn't happen. And since then, one of the reasons I mentioned that, Commissioner Morris, is since then, until you brought it up this year, and you'd obviously given it some thought, it's just maybe been casually mentioned a time or two, and nothing ever really discussed about it. But I think anyone who sees it from the side of actually doing it is gonna, I think a reasonable person would say, wow, you're not getting very much for all the time and effort that this takes. But anyhow, I'll keep an open mind as far as where we go with this, but in deference to the process, we probably have so much other work to do, we might kind of want to look at that later, maybe even.
I respect you guys leaving it the same if you wanna do that, if the public's not complaining to you.
Well,
then
I've never had a
it's probably not
complaint
top
on it.
issue.
Well, I've never had a complaint. I've had questions about what we make, but when I tell people, is that all?
That's the response I get.
Yeah.
The only good thing about going to a flat pay is you know about how much it's gonna cost a year to pay the commissioners doing their job. That's the only advantage to it, which right now you can kind of guesstimate, because we usually typically don't have no more than 2 meetings a month, plus maybe 1 or 2 special meetings that come in effect, but
Except budget time, March, April, May, June,
right,
it's gonna be your most meetings.
right.
And you can never know how many meetings a person's gonna miss.
Right, and the other thing is like our committee meetings, I'm on 3 committees. I know you're on several, Jimmy, I can't remember how many you're on, but,
3 or 4, I think.
I'm on 5.
so that right there also kind of throws it a little bit, you know, comparing apples to apples on that. Cause Jamie, I think Jamie's on 1, is that correct? And by all means, not faulting nobody on it, it's just, mine and Commissioner Yonts' schedule, it's hard for us to do these, daytime, special meetings with other committees, but.
Something to consider. This has little, if anything, to do with our budget. But you take like the appointment that Commissioner Yance has. If he's not gonna be able to meet those meetings, it's understandable. He's a very busy person. He has a lot of responsibility in his job, and he's probably doing the best he can, trying to juggle all the balls he's trying to juggle. But we can, with his permission, we can have a commissioner's appointee to serve in his place. It can be just, it could be our health director, it could be just a citizen with an interest in that area. We could appoint them to serve instead, but, you know, we don't have to discuss that right now, because that's down the road if ever.
So that's, I brought up the idea last night, the occupancy tax. Does everybody seem to be on board with something like that, putting in place
What is it?
the occupancy tax?
Oh, that's been looked at before. There's an aversion in our county, a negative view toward any new tax, even an occupancy tax, which most of the time would not be paid by our citizens, but would be paid by tourists.
Correct.
And that, we did have an economic development advisory board. And I remember discussions on that board about an occupancy tax, but there was never enough momentum in the direction of having it to make it happen. The one theory was we just don't have that much lodging available in the county. So would we get tax from the park? I don't think so. They're
Yeah,
still.
we would.
Would we really?
From the cabins.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a little bit more real.
During the campaign, I mentioned it to a lot of people. Every single person said do it.
Yep.
There were no negatives, and everybody said it's a no-brainer.
And in all
The
honesty,
way it was.
for me, Commissioner Morris, I've never went out talking to people about it that much. I've watched what our advisory board did, what they had to say, and
We
got
have
a
a lot
little
of people
feedback.
that are boarding people in bed and breakfasts and
Oh, yeah.
places around here all over the place.
There's a lot more in this county than I ever thought there was, yeah, I mean, a whole lot more.
Have you talked, when you were talking to people, did you talk to people who were providing the service, any of those?
I did, when I ran,
And,
and I got a lot of positives also about having it. I went from Moore Springs and, Northern End all the way down to Walnut Cove area where they got, and it was mostly bed and breakfast, that
Mhm.
nature. Most people were, that I talked to, they were,
If I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken, it has a specified use, you have to use it.
Tourism.
Yeah, tourism.
And the people that do that business, it goes back to them.
so it would be actually used to promote their businesses.
Correct.
that's right.
I don't know the details, but probably need a proposed policy on doing it from somewhere that we can
Well-
implement, another county or something.
I think Joey did.
See,
Joey doesn't, yeah, I could, didn't say you had the policy or
I think there's that has to be used for specified, like economic development.
Right.
or tourism.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that kind of gives us a little bit of a safety valve for is something we don't really want to tackle directly as part of our budget process, is there's only one thing that can't be changed by a budget ordinance amendment, and that's the property tax rate. So we can come back, and if we want to just defer this to later, which there does seem to be some interest, we can come back later in the year when things are not so cramped time-wise and really deal with it.
I would like to get it in place as soon as possible, especially right now, we're kind of,
Every time
Peak
it's on
season.
place, we're losing revenue.
yeah.
I'd like to see a proposal on it from another county or something.
Oh, yeah, I'd like some information about it.
Put one in place.
One question, who would decide how those funds are actually used? I mean, they're used for specified purposes, but who would be,
If we get a policy, that would be a question.
so we would set the policy and say this is how the funds will be
If we
used?
get somebody else's policy, it will probably explain it.
Right.
I think we would be the ones that said as long as we use it for those specific purposes it's required to be used for.
Very good.
I got a comment or two, just which I probably need to say it maybe again when Jamie is here, but I've started trying to put a little bit of a position together, like, you were talking about everybody needs to do.
Right.
This is just like the first little cutout, maybe half done, but we all have to come up with a position on the school budget, both capital and current expense. And that just involves really, I don't think we're gonna get to the point of separating the roofs out into the 4 cent fund. I think we're just going to probably deal with what we've been proposed at this point. So decide how much of that capital list we wanna do, and then just really come up with a dollar amount for current expense. Because we got the recommended budget, plus we got the $640,351, which is to keep everything the same amount that Lynette gave us. And we got, that list of 8, I think it was, discretionary items that the Board of Education requested. So and then I guess the last thing would be, if we decide to give them a $250,000 fund balance, we gotta figure out how much we would have to add to what they already have for them to have a 250 fund balance. So really, that's just each commissioner coming up with a number and comparing numbers, I guess. I think we were kind of in agreement with doing the 20 items on the capital list the other night. Adding that 75K and doing that one additional thing, West Stokes.
With the buses, yeah.
Yeah, with, track and field something.
Um,
We gotta have that, and then we gotta have like just a number for current expense plus that. Like, would that fund balance would be part of the current expense, right? Fund balance. That would just be part. We just gotta have one number for the capital and one number for the current expense. So then the next thing, we've got this capital projects list. We've got the EMF station, $650,000. And along, we got the solid waste transfer station, solid waste transfer stations, $770, and we already talked today about splitting that in half, so you could gain 300 and something thousand there by just doing one of them. We got the fuel depot, you gotta do a yes or no on that, the storage building, which is 500,000, you gotta do a yes or no. Solid waste building and the scale house, we gotta do a yes or no. That's 125,000, and then I also put under this, which wasn't listed in the budget, the water project at Meadows, if we're gonna hire an engineering firm or something to start getting grants for that, so we'd have to, I guess, come up with a number of what we thought that would cost. Then in addition to those, we got similar projects that are under public buildings. That's the HVAC, that's 28,000. And a boiler replacement for this building's 25,000. Demo in the prison camp is 120,000. Replacing the roof at the jail, I guess that's the old part of the jail, that's 85,000. And then 5,000 to do the recovering of the lobby pews in the courthouse. But, so there's a lot of money that you could get out of that area by either doing or not doing those projects. Then we gotta decide on a COLA amount, what COLA percent we want. I think we've done the equipment list. We were pretty much in agreement with what we think should be in that, with the exception of deciding about additional ambulance for the 6 unit. We got $500,000 in economic development with no specific plan for how it's gonna be used. So I would think we could possibly, unless we have something, unless we're gonna use that maybe to hire somebody to work on the water meadows or something, then we may have more in there than we really have to have. We have the 4-cent fund, whether or not we're gonna put the normal amount in it. And with that, we can go for anywhere from $1, or really from $0 to $1,139,775. And it's not like an either or, we can do those two numbers or anything in between, depending how we wanna try to prioritize other budget items if we wanna use that to help balance the budget. And we've got these new positions and reclassifications that we talked about the other night, and we sort of agreed on a certain group that's not final, but it was like a tentative agreement. That's $780,000 to play with, and then as a result of our discussions the other night, we had $108,000 in savings that I guess counts toward being able to.
If I may say something, those things you listed in public buildings, they're in that equipment list, and all that's coming from capital reserve. It's not coming out of the general fund.
They won't reduce it.
Okay.
Does that,
Yeah, I understand that technicality of the budget, but then with the point that Jamie made the other night is that we could take every bit of that capital reserve money and move it back in the general fund if we wanted to. So it is separate, but then in one way of looking at it, if you're really getting into hard budget decisions, you could use it for general fund.
you're not transferring any into it this year.
Yeah. That's just like a partial list. I guess we need to, maybe one approach to this would be to take the list that we used the other night and add anything to it we need to, and go through and see if we have some definite, positions, like, I think we all have a definite position on the fund balance. If we have a definite position on the COLA, see if we have a definite position on some of these items where we could at least get them out of the way. And you knew what you were gonna do on COLA or fund balance or this, that, or the other, you had that locked in, then it would help you be able to resolve the other issue. You know how much money you have left, you know, to do the other stuff. Anyway, that's kind of my thought process up to this point.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
what Commissioner Morris is talking about is absolutely correct. Julia and Shannon have been working on some number crunching here also, and I would love for Julia to go over some numbers here and let Rick and you guys have what she's come up with, of what you could do that would cut this down to where you would have a 25% fund balance.
A little
Can you
over.
do it?
That's small.
5.43. If you cut,
Is the mics on?
Yeah, they're on, nobody's speaking very loud as part of it. I think you're whispering. I'm just kidding. Yeah, that's on.
Can you turn it up some?
Can you hear that? We got it right here. It's just this spot right here. We've got this boundary mic that's not quite as picked up as good.
I think also with her laptop blocking,
Oh,
Maybe.
or that, maybe, I don't know. Maybe so. If I move it much apart, it makes that weird reverb noise.
slide this over.
Okay.
I mean, just looking at figures, I was just sitting here, some stuff that's been talked about. If you cut the economic development transfer to cap reserve in half, that'd be $250,000. You don't do the 6th unit, the staff is what you say, because we're borrowing money to do the ambulance. So that really is not it's cutting your budget, but it's not cutting your amount of fund balance. And then time and a half, if you wanted to do that, it costs $423,350.
But surely,
$423,350. If we say 75% of what we got, the worst scenario, that's what the total would be.
And that includes
And that's for
communications.
EMS and communications, because if we change EMS, we gotta change communications.
yeah,
And if you did half of the transfer up to the 4 cent fund, which would be $569,888, that'd be a savings of $704,172. And you would use $4,110,361 from fund balance, and that'd leave you fund balance at approximately 25.43.
how much are you putting in it, if you do it, what did you say? How much you putting in the fund balance, I mean, in the 4 cent fund?
$569,888. $569,888.
$569,888, that's half of that 1.1.
Okay.
And if y'all wanna see a model of what that will do to, I've got the model that I can plug that into.
so if we've done this, this will take us down to 25
.43.
25.43.
and no tax increase.
Like I said, that's just, I just over here crunching
Is that
some
the 4%?
numbers and
I think everything she's running with no tax
The five.
increase.
Okay,
The five.
For this year.
this year, yes.
It does have an embedded tax
I mean, it's up
increase.
to the board, I was
Will have to
over
be
here
dealt with
crunching, trying to see if I
somehow,
can see,
You got the cost of
you know,
living 4%.
and like you said,
Yeah,
we
she was
could,
on
there
It's
could,
just taken.
you didn't wanna transfer the money to public buildings and capital reserve this year.
We just took
I
these
think
things and added them.
So you go through your list again, please. Let me make notes this time.
It's a-
Changing the economic development transfer to capital reserve from 500,000
To 250, okay.
Then taking out the EMS staff, which is 307,634.
That's for the
sixth
sixth unit. Mhm.
And your budget would go down because we take the ambulance out, but that's being financed, so that's in another revenue.
For how many years? 3 years? Are we financing our
Well, we
ambulances
have to
for?
show it as proceeds, for the total amount is proceeds from financing, and usually we do 3 to 4 years.
3 to 4 years. Okay, and that
And it-
amount for the staff was,
307,634. And if you do the true time and a half for EMS, it costs you approximately $423,350.
exactly where those
That's doing
numbers arrive at.
75% of the worst scenario that nobody took off time, and we know people
Sure.
take off time.
More likely we won't
But
reach that number.
We did
That's
like
good.
75% of that, so.
That's your no more than number, not
And
greater
then-
than number.
And then doing half of the 1.139 going to the 4-cent fund, which would be $569,888.
Okay, now what was that again, please?
You know, we've been transferring 1,139,775 to the 4-cent fund from general fund, because that's part of the model. If you only did half this year, you'd save $569,888.
569, or 570 roughly.
And that totals $704,172.
Okay.
And then you would use $4 million. I gotta go back over to my other sheet, hold on.
Julia, what kind of COLA is in these?
4% COLA.
A 4% COLA is in there?
That's the same exact numbers that were here yesterday,
Yeah,
just with
that's
those
on this
things
sheet.
cut out.
How much for the schools?
That would be our recommended, but
That would be
the
the
recommended.
holding them where they are at this time, and giving them no extra money.
You mean holding them, giving them the 600 and some thousand,
Yes.
but not anything out of their discretionary list?
Not anything for fund balance or any of the
Or
other
fund
items they
balance.
listed.
So that amount is 12,145, 559? What amount do you have in there?
Right.
For-
What is it, 12?
If you wanted to say, okay, no, no.
Well,
To the 4%.
12,994,933 if you include Poplar Springs operating expenses. 12,994,933.
That's from the 4-cent fund, right?
The $90,300 is from the 4-cent fund.
For Poplar Springs?
Yes. The total, not including Poplar Springs, is $12,904,633.
Okay, I have a recommended amount in our manager's proposed budget of 12,145, 559. So how did that go from, it's right here on this.
That's last year's number.
No, I'm
1920
sorry,
is
I'm,
not on there.
I'm looking at last year's
Yeah.
number, my apologies, you're absolutely right.
See,
Thank
we
you.
took
Thank you,
last
sir.
year's, what we appropriated,
Right,
plus
and-
the budget amendment that we did for the supplements of 213, 231, and added, they said to maintain their current operating, that would mean 488,851, and then school funding reductions was 151,500, and that made up the 12,904,633.
12,904,633. Now, my position all along is that the teacher supplements were in the previous budget. I know for pretty much a fact that they were, but I'm not going there. I don't care to keep that argument going. I just think it behooves us, this board, me, as being part of the board, to come up with an amount to give them, and what they do with it, they're gonna do anyway, so we're not gonna be able to say do this or do that. So it just is a matter of coming up with an amount that's fair to them, fair to the county, fair to the citizens, and saying, let's go with it. Now, when I look at the numbers, they're scary. We're going from, in 17, 18, what was the 200,000 for in 16, 17, June? Was that Chromebooks, or what did we do a special appropriation for?
That was the matching grant from the Golden Leaf.
Okay. And, you know, the budget amounts have been 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. Then it, almost 11, and then 12, and then 13. The increase from 16, 17 to, 19, 20 is about 40% in 4 years. Help me with my math. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer when it comes to numbers, but,